Good evening and welcome to Legal Tech Live, episode 106. I'm your host, Nick Rishwain, and we are here with the founders of Priori. You can find them at priorilegal.com. The founders are Basha Rubin and Mirra Levitt, and they're joining us to give us their startup journey. Ladies, thank you for coming on. I know it's late. I'm not going to keep you all night, but I do want to invite you guys. I want to invite you, I should say, or you ladies, I want you to tell us a little bit, just to start off, tell us a little bit about Priori, kind of from where the concept came from when you decided, okay, I'm gonna start a legal tech company, or where we're gonna start a legal tech company, and then how that progressed to finally starting it. And should I start with Basha on that or Mirra?
I'll take it.
Okay, perfect.
That's a pretty big question, though. It encompasses a lot of years and a lot of ups and downs. So, Priori, at a high level, is a legal marketplace for in-house teams to find, hire, and manage a global vetted network of attorneys at firms of all sizes. And to accomplish that, we've built two things. One is that global vetted network of attorneys whom we vet using a proprietary data-driven vetting process we've developed. And second, a technology platform that sits on top of the attorney network and aims to drive efficiency at every stage of the process of engaging with those attorneys, from initial RFP and bidding through to billing and invoicing.
So she's done this before. For those watching, I noticed that was really refined, and that's fantastic. I'm sorry.
I didn't wake her up in the middle of the night and ask that, and it would come out like pretty good.
That was really good. That was really. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but that was really.
No, I need to keep it. I need to sound more authentic. I have to work on that. But the rest of your question was how we decide to start a legal tech company.
Yeah.
And what the journey's been. I'm not sure we decided to start a legal tech company. I think a legal tech company happened to us.
Okay.
So Mirra and I met as classmates at Yale Law School, and the truth is we had. And we were talking about various ideas about how to transform the legal industry and how to make it more transparent. And when we originally began working on the idea for Priori, it was, I would say, a legal company that was enabled by technology, not a legal technology platform. And after we launched, thinking about what kind of business structures could make the legal industry more efficient, cost-effective, and transparent, we realized that we had kind of gotten it backwards, and that we needed to build a technology company first in order to hit the kind of scale that we thought we had the opportunity to transform the market for legal services. So I'll pause there and pass it to Mirra if she has.
Yeah, Mirra, what do you have to add to that? That's please.
I mean, it was a great summation, and Basha's usually our cold open. She does it really well. I would only add on the sort of, I think it's been a natural evolution for us. We started with a problem, and we didn't realize, and that was about how to find the right lawyer for particular matters. And that turned out to be a problem that can be solved really well with technology, and solved less well without it. So we evolved from what felt to us like a delivery of legal services problem towards a technology solution for that problem.
And was this something that was this decided in law school, or was this we're practicing and we saw the need for this solution?
Our answers are a little bit different there. So
okay.
I'll give my version, not because we disagree, but just because we had different paths.
Sure.
To be clear. I decided my 3L year in law school that I wanted to launch a legal business. It was not that I had a genius, brilliant idea for Priori that was burning a hole in my brain. But I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, and I thought I had a very unique vantage point with legal education. But I took a year off to travel after graduating from Yale Law School and taking the bar, and then began working on the initial iteration of Priori, which was a similar-ish business. But as Mirra said, we started with a problem, not a solution. And we were initially very focused on small businesses and individuals. Now we're working with, several of the Fortune 10. So we have moved in our market and approach rather substantially.
Excellent. And Mirra, how did you come to it?
I would only add that I think both of us were interested in legal services delivery because Yale Law School is a special place for a lot of different reasons. But one of the things it does really well is let students explore clinical opportunities, whether, across a whole wide range of different kinds of clinics. And I was working in a mortgage foreclosure clinic for about 5 of my 6 semesters there. And it was really formative in understanding how difficult it was for both individuals and small businesses to find appropriate legal representation. And, Basha was in a different clinic and saw that from a different perspective. And so that question of sort of how people find the right thing in law was something that we both started thinking about in law school. I then went to Covington and did M&A and venture work. And, I think I really liked being a corporate lawyer, and I think Covington's a fantastic law firm. And but as I was evolving as a lawyer, I was talking about the business with Basha as well, and just felt compelled to go on and build it and try to find a solution.
And what year did you guys begin Priori?
We launched in 2013.
2013. Okay. So you guys have been around for almost 8 years now. So you've had a lot of experiences in that time, a lot of successes, and I'm sure some failures. Did either of you have the technical co-founder role, or is that something you had to go out and seek?
It was something we had to go out and seek. And, I think whatever, I can't say anything more trite than hindsight is 2020. But if I could do it again, I would have learned how to code, not because I think I was going to build the whole thing. It's, it's not what I think my highest and best use on earth is, but I think it would have made, if we're speaking with an advice hat, I think it would have made a lot of decisions. It would have given me a different rubric to make decisions and build and hire in the early days of the company.
Excellent. And was it the tech that you were building did you start with the tech that you were building? You said it was sort of a legal company and then technology, and then you kind of switched that thought process. Did you start with like Excel spreadsheets for placing people? And then
no, we always had a website that okay. That enabled you to put in a request for a legal need, to send back matches, and to manage the back end software. I think it's more, I think that all sorts of services, tech-enabled services business struggle with this question. Are you a services company first, or are you a technology company first? And we really started with the ethos that we were a services company first, and the technology was there to facilitate the services. But what we realized over time is that the bigger opportunity was to be a technology company first, and think about how technology could solve these problems in a really unique and scalable way, and sort of be agnostic to the services.
Excellent. Mirra, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I would say that I think, neither of us are technical, but a big part of building a legal technology company is being very close to the legal industry that you're disrupting. And I think, obviously there have been moments where I think both of us have wished that we could code. But, I run product now, and I think being the voice of it's two-sided marketplace, I can easily speak for both the buyers and the sellers. And that has been tremendously important from a product and solution development perspective. Because, obviously it's a technology company, but it's solving problems that lawyers face. And so that's it. I think that has been an accelerant, even while we're having to source tech talent from not at the co-founder level.
Excellent. So you are a staffing agency, if we're really reductive, right? Nope. Yes. Clear it up for me. I know we can't say that, but
yeah, we are definitely not a staffing agency. So we are not placing individuals in in contract roles for periods of time. What we're doing, our clients are using us for the full range of business legal services, and the firms on our platform are mostly boutique to mid-size firms. So we provide a way for in-house teams to make strategic decisions about what kind of law firm provider is the right solution for their work. And for some of that work, you're in a $1 billion lawsuit. Probably should still go to big law firms. But increasingly, in-house teams are looking at their work and grading it by risk and complexity and saying, I could move 80% of this to smaller firms if only I had the mechanism to do that. And by mechanism, I mean the way to identify those firms and the way to manage a lot of the administrative aspect of it. And that's what we do. So our clients are using us for a full range of services, everything from complex patent litigation to M&A to antitrust, through to some of the work that you might expect for a company like ours, the commercial overflow support, and sometimes secondment style work, but never structured as a staffing firm.
Okay.
And that part of the market for us is very, very small.
Very small. Okay. So tell us on the founder journey aspect, right? This is we have most of our audience is some version of founders. We have thank you to we've got John, Meg, and Prashant who are joining us in the Zoom room. If you're joining us on Facebook, please post your questions. The same with Zoom. Post your questions for founders Basha Rubin and Mirra Levitt of Priori. So tell us a little bit about those early days. Did you, when you had the website up, were you just entirely bootstrapping for some time?
Yeah, we were. We didn't raise actually anything at all, and I think this is again sort of the mindset of the kind of company we originally thought we were founding. We raised our seed round in 2017, and it was not because we were desperately trying to raise money. We just didn't see it as a technology venture that needed external funding in the same way in our earliest days. And so we raised our seed round in December of 2017. It's really been a huge game changer. And then we raised our Series A just a few months ago, and has accelerated our ability to deliver the solutions that we think are really going to change the way legal services are delivered.
That's great. Yeah. Anything to add to that, Mirra?
Yeah, I would only add that, we pivoted our business before.
Oh yeah, great point.
So the original business was very much focused on individuals and small businesses, and which is still a market. We're passionate about those, connecting them with the right lawyers. But from a business perspective, it wasn't scalable. And I think not raising money initially helped us really see the cracks there. I think that, when you have capital and you're deploying it, it would have been a lot easier to, get that GMV growing without thinking about whether people are coming back, without thinking about platform leakage and all the things that you really focus on if you're bootstrapping. And so I think, for us, it was important to not raise that seed until we really felt like we understood that we were getting close to product market fit, and that we had a business that was in position to scale.
And this is something I've seen over all the episodes. There are a lot of difficulties in that small and medium business serving that community, aren't there?
Definitely. I think that there are obviously lots of different kinds of difficulties that different kinds of businesses encounter. I think we can all agree that from a legal services perspective, it's an underserved market. I'm not sure that the marketplace business model, however, is the solution to it. I think that there is going to be a lot more more technology-based solutions that really change the economics, because you need the unit economics of your business to basically work. Like businesses need to be spending more on your platform than you are spending to acquire them. And I think that's really hard with small businesses and individuals in this space.
I also think, one of the things, small businesses and individuals need counseling. Like lawyers play a terrifically important role in not just helping small businesses and individuals resolve something, but also helping them scope the problem and figure out what kind of help they need. And technology is not well placed to do that. And I think there's a lot of technology that can help solve incremental small problems and really be targeted at a particular kind of problem. But a sort of general services marketplace, I think, is not a great fit for that need profile. One of the things we set out to do is help people optimize, right? So we give a lot of data about what lawyers do, what they're good at, and we're vetting. So we're getting lawyers who are maybe not the cheapest, but are a good value given how good they, how talented they are. Often, for small businesses and individuals, though, the choice isn't about optimizing. It's about figuring out whether they need a lawyer and figuring out whether it's, whether they really even want to spend anything. And so it was just not the right, we were here thinking about optimization and lawyer quality and connecting boutique lawyers with opportunities. And we were just answering a different question than what they needed.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've had some experience in the startup space myself with that, almost to direct to consumer. And Mirra, you just touched on it with sometimes they don't even know if they want to spend anything, and that's a difficult place to be in starting a business.
Super hard.
So in those first 4 years between inception and before you got your seed round, can you tell us what one or two, or maybe one each, what you both thought were the biggest struggle that you faced in those first 4 years?
Only one? Oh,
yeah, you can go more than one. You can go more than one.
I think that it was a real struggle for me squaring the conviction that I had that the marketplace business model had the potential to transform the industry with the fact that the fact that we had very high satisfaction ratings from our clients and the attorneys on our platform, with the fact that we just couldn't crack those unit economics. And that despite really rigorous experimentation across every single channel we could think of, it was still at a fundamental level, we were paying more to acquire our customers than they were spending on the platform. And we knew we didn't want to raise money against a business that looked like that, because ultimately we thought that would spell its death. And I think that we've seen that happen in the legal space plenty. So we wanted to make sure that we had really figured it out. But it was frustrating to not be able to crack it, and to keep on coming up, keep on having ideas that you thought were going to be the right thing, the thing that was going to get it, and not having them pan out, and just the accumulation of that over time. But it was probably early 2016 where we made the decision to pivot. And as soon as we made the decision to pivot, everything changed. I mean, that sounds a little melodramatic, but I like it.
I like it. Add a little drama to it for us.
It's 9:30. It's 14th hour of working. And
you don't have a cocktail in your hand.
I don't have a cocktail in my hand. Got to spice it up somehow. But and it was amazing how all of a sudden the conversations we were having changed, and that feeling began to accumulate, and you realize that you're onto something, and then you're chasing it, and the entire tenor of the experience changed then. And I think I'm actually not even sure in retrospect if we realized how much it wasn't clicking before that.
Oh, like almost we just do what we do, and we're just going to keep doing it. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden something works and you're like, oh my God, what was I doing? Never mind.
And Mirra, how about you? What do you think? How can you add to that? Is to in
Yeah,
those
I
first
mean, I
four
think,
years?
yeah, just to follow up on Basha's point, I think we used to be like, well, what do they mean where like it clicks? Like, we have happy buyers, we have happy providers, and then you change the product slightly and you change the market, and just things accelerate and the velocity picks up, and that's incredibly exciting. Then you're like, oh right, okay, this is what this feels like. Different kind of roller coaster. I think you know I, before this, thought of myself as like a fairly tenacious, tough person. I had a series of jobs that required a lot from me and was happy doing them. But it's a different kind of toughness when you're coming at a problem day after day and your peers are in more traditional paths, getting like more traditional brass rings, and your company is not growing. And it's hard, right? Because if it's like Basha said, we had a lot of conviction that something was going to work here and that we were interested in a problem that mattered, but not seeing that accelerate while you're sort of iterating and trying new things over and over again, which requires a lot of energy and a lot of creativity, and also doing that in front of people and keeping a team motivated while you're doing all of that, took a lot. I will also say that the other challenging moment during those 4 years is during that seed round, we finally decided to raise, and felt like we were going in the right direction. And then we both got pregnant within 10 days of each other accidentally. And so we were
neither accidentally.
The
being pregnant.
Yeah, I mean,
we didn't plan to get pregnant at the same time.
Right.
Coordination was not planned. Sometimes people are like, oh, that's so great, your girls will be best friends. And we're like, we hope they will be, but also it wasn't so great. So
I want to dive into that because we don't get this discussion a lot on the show. This is it. Like, now you've got a seed round. I have so many questions, but you have a seed round, but you have the two founders who are now going to be mothers.
Well, we closed the round 6 weeks after we gave birth. So it was.
Wow. So, okay, we're going a whole different direction here for a minute. So now you've closed the seed round and you've both given birth, and now you're supposed to grow a company and a tiny.
Okay,
team.
that was the easy part. That
Yeah.
was once we closed the round. That was the easy part. It was the part where we were
in our
third trimesters and had 6 employees, and hadn't raised the round, and we were both about to give birth. Yeah. That was the hard part.
That's the hard part. But I was getting to, what about now you've got children to raise while also raising a company? That was honestly not difficult?
That was way easier than the showing up in VC's offices with both of us pregnant. That was bad news bears. And just so incredibly awkward and difficult to handle. Once we got the right investors in the room and closed the round, it got a lot easier. One of our lead investors is an accelerator called Hearst Lab, which invests only in female founders. We moved into Hearst. They give you space as part of that. So we just had a lot. Suddenly, in addition to the monetary investment, we suddenly had a lot more support for our company.
How interesting.
Great space. We weren't managing a space anymore. And that was tremendously helpful so that we could focus on the business while we were at work, and then the kids when we were at home.
Excellent. And I feel like we have to discuss it because it doesn't get discussed a lot, but we know that investment in women-led teams is low. There's a percentage. Did you have any pushback from investors? Here you ladies are coming in, you're both pregnant at the same time. Do you think a lot of people passed because of that?
It's kind of a hard counterfactual.
Right.
Nobody was like, you're both pregnant.
Right.
We won't invest in you. I will say there were a couple of things though that seem like little cues that you're being treated differently. So we had a lot of investors ask us if we were looking to build a lifestyle business. And maybe there are a lot of staffing style companies, and not that we're a staffing company,
Right.
but that look like the provision of services that are lifestyle businesses. So it's not entirely an unfair question, except I can tell you there is no way on earth we would be doing this if it were a lifestyle business, because this is not any kind of lifestyle that people looking for a lifestyle business aspire to. But sort of language like that feels coded in certain ways. One investor, this one sticks out to me, who said, your numbers are good and your business makes sense, but you just don't make my spidey sense tingle. I mean, gross. Please keep your spidey sense away from me.
Yeah, not for this pitch, please.
but it's like, what doesn't make your spidey sense tingle? Is it because we don't look like the model of leaders that you imagine? And there's always that lingering question, but I would not say that we experienced anything over.
Yeah, it wasn't like any sort of horror story kind of experience. I think it's a hard time to be establishing new relationships with anything, whether it's VCs or a new employer. Basha was pregnant again this summer when we raised, and we were very open about it. And it was much less of an issue because at that point we had existing investors who knew us and trusted us and were coming in for this, we're coming in again, and that gave people confidence. And I mean, true story, she negotiated our term sheet on the way to the hospital. But literally she's like speeding down the roads, and she was upstate.
Wait, were you driving yourself?
No.
Okay. Okay. I was like, that's really multitasking.
It was a windy road, and they're trying to get to the hospital, and it was sort of like being like, one of those cameras that's like a first person roller coaster video, and like Basha's like going back and forth. And anyway, but I will say the second time it was much less of an issue because they knew us and they knew how hard we worked. And I think it's just it's just a hard format to start a new thing and start new relationships.
Okay. All right. Well, that is, those are really great stories about. I hope you guys you ladies are writing this down somewhere so that you can retell this again and again. Since the 2016-2017 raise, what kind of struggles have you experienced in that we now require that rapid growth? And we'll start with Basha.
Well, I would say that, not to harken back to fundraising again, but we decided to go out to fundraise in February of 2020, which in retrospect was rather comedic timing. Right.
So there's a whole timing theme that kind of goes through this experience.
Yeah, but I think if I'm extrapolating, it's a testament to luck also. Like, there is so much of business, you want it to feel like it's 100% in your control and you work to make it so, but there's a huge element of it that's getting a little bit lucky, being at the right place at the right time. And you try and make your own luck, and we persevered, and we got the raise done over the summer during COVID, but it was really scary. We went out, we had initial conversations. We thought it was going really well. We thought we were going to close the round right away. And then everything dried up and everyone pulled out because nobody knew in the beginning of March last year what was going to happen. And that made a lot of sense to us, but it was cold comfort.
Right. And by the way, over in the Facebook group where the Zoom guests and the Facebook guests have all been really quiet tonight, but we're getting all kinds of love on this pregnancy term sheet negotiations on the way to give birth. That's amazing. From Daza Greenwood, and Cami Lopez is just a string of laughing faces and emojis. So this is a story worth continuing to tell. Mirra, how about you? What do you think from the time of raising? It could be your seed round or your Series A. However, what struggles have you thought that you really have had to overcome in that time?
Yeah, I mean, I will say, just on the laughing point, I'm glad she's laughing because I think that's how we got through a lot of the summer, right? You just had to find humor wherever you could possibly find it. You know, I think what has been interesting with both raises is that you feel the acceleration made possible by having some more resources. And both times we were so ready for resources that first you're so grateful, and it feels amazing to be able to, you know, give your team more resources, to hire more people. And then you start to hit that acceleration and you're like, whoa, okay, this is incredibly exciting, but also there are new challenges that I have to solve really fast. And whether that's, you know, I think most recently, you know, Basha and I are both very in-person kind of people. We do a lot of management, or before COVID, did a lot of management, you know, talking to people, observing our team. You know, we, in the Hearst building where we used to work, there was a lunch, you know, a great cafeteria. Almost our whole team had lunch at the cafeteria every day. So you were, you know, seeing people in different contexts and having coffee and having lunch and we all worked at a big table. And now we just don't have those opportunities to see how people are doing and hear sort of like snippets of people's conversations about how they're doing their job. And I think one big challenge over the past year, both during the raise and now after it, is figuring out how to adjust our management style to being remote and really only getting what people choose to put out via video.
Interesting. Yeah, that is, and the staff size now is probably larger too. So you feel a little bit more disconnected because you don't have that close.
We haven't met half our team.
Half our team we've never been in the same room with.
And they're absolutely phenomenal. We feel like we've just put together the brain trust here. But it is really different to not meet people who you're working closely with. Whereas we used to, as Mirra said, see everybody every single day and go out for happy hours most weeks and develop really close relationships. It's just a very different kind of dynamic.
Wow, that is the, you know, that hasn't come up. This is the difference between having a more established company and then having some of our younger, where you were in that 2013 to 2016 stage, is a lot of our guests right now who are the early stage startups, you know, most of them are working with one or two or three, or maybe 4 or 5 people. They're into it, but now you've got a staff and half of them you haven't met. That's really fascinating. I didn't even think about that, as far as most all the stories we hear are about people now. Well, we know each other, but now we're just working in different areas. But now we're hiring people that we don't know or haven't met face to face. That's interesting. What if you were to go back to, or I'm sure you work or talk to other female founders, other legal tech startup founders, and guide them through this. What kinds of advice do you provide to other founders who are in that early stage, maybe pre-seed? Basha? Oh, Mirra, please.
No, Mirra, go first.
I was gonna break the pattern and feel
yes, I think that's great.
A little bit of like a round robin. It's making me feel like you know, I would say hire for talent and not skill set. I think, you know, some of the best hires we've made are people who are just fantastically talented and want to maybe move slightly outside of their comfort zone and want to experiment a little on a job that they, you know, might not be perfectly qualified for, but have succeeded in other areas of their life. And I think that's been a really successful hiring strategy for us. I think early on, we didn't quite hit that as well. And we were focusing more on sort of like someone, you know, we need SEO. Let's hire somebody who's like spent a lot of time doing SEO and worry less about fit and talent. And I think particularly for small companies, it's just so important to get talented, hardworking people who have some grit there. And if they don't have exactly the skill set, like, you'll figure it out.
That's great. Great advice. Basha?
Yeah, I would say I'm talking now about people who are almost in the ideation phase, but really understand the problem that you're trying to solve. The solution. I mean, I know this doesn't sound terribly insightful, but make sure that you are solving a problem that you know exists and that you have some unique insight into, because there are so many legal tech startups out there now. I mean, there were even when we launched. And I think there are really exciting, untapped problems to solve. But I often hear new founders going after some of the same concepts that have been tried and tried and tried again, and someone will get them. But I think that it is important to be introspective about where your unique perspective can give you an edge.
That's excellent advice. And where do you see the thing? We're about 35 minutes in. I don't want to keep Mirra and Basha all night, so we'll go to about 6:40, folks. So if you have questions, you're all being tremendously quiet tonight, except for the funny stories. You're loving those. Who are you primarily serving as you in your marketplace? Are you serving Fortune 500 companies and their in-house teams? Is that primarily who you're serving?
Fortune 500s, fast-growing Silicon Valley technology companies, and a range of smaller companies as well, but all of whom have in-house legal teams. And then on the other side, I think it's easy to just frame it in terms of the clients who are paying us, but we see a huge part of our mission being getting business to small boutique excellent practices so they can focus their time on practicing law instead of doing business development and admin work.
Excellent. Mirra, how about you?
Yeah, I was just Basha kind of hit the point that I wanted to make sure we got, which is that, I think what we're trying to do is make sure that businesses can find the right lawyer, and right is a word that carries a lot of different meanings for a lot of different kinds of matters, even for the same person, for each piece of work. But the other side of that, even though we usually talk about it as a client-facing thing because they're the ones who pay us, is that that's better for lawyers too. Being with the right client relationships, doing work that the lawyer is interested in, and fits well with their skill set and their experience is good for lawyers too, and lawyers across the spectrum. Everything from solos to AmLaw 100s, and I think that's a problem that is really exciting to be solving, and we very much see ourselves as serving the lawyers in the marketplace as well.
Excellent. And we have a question from Karen out of the Facebook group. Do you find law firms hesitant to bring on new technology? Have you found that to be the case?
Changed radically over the time that we've been doing Priori. When we first started working on this, Mirra and I had a conversation with a lawyer. We weren't talking to him about bringing him onto the Priori platform, but he was an ethics lawyer, and we'd wanted to talk to an ethics lawyer before we move forward with the business. And he said to us, and he was probably like 55, he was like, I'm happy to help you. I'm very capable of helping you. But I think this is the stupidest idea I've ever heard in my entire life. And I was like, well, not a very good sales pitch, sir. I don't think you'd be capable of helping us. Thank you. But, I'm really not being dramatic about that. No hyperbole. And that was not, lawyers didn't always say that to our faces, but there was an undertone of that. Now we have AmLaw 100 firms reaching out to us because they're curious about joining the marketplace. And I think that doesn't necessarily mean they're not reticent to embed new kinds of technologies into their core workflows. I can't really speak to that, but I do think there's a lot of curiosity about how technology can transform their practices.
Excellent. Mary, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I would just say that I think the leadership within law firms is, more and more involves people who've been working with technology their whole lives, right? Maybe not quite digital natives at age 45 now, but close. And I think some of that change, that assumption that technology is something that is foreign and isn't useful, I think is really changing and being driven as some of these younger leaders say, okay, well, technology is delivering a lot of value in other areas of my life. I have an openness to thinking about how it could be good for law firms in addition to clients. And so I think there's a lot of space for that kind of creativity now. And obviously having the right conversations and big institutions move slowly and all those disclaimers. But I think we've seen just a tremendous shift over the past year.
Excellent. And I see what you're doing, Meg, and I appreciate it. Your own staffer, Meg, is in here feeding me questions. And I approve.
Phenomenal employees we've never met in person.
Yep. I approve of this move, Meg, but I'm going to ask Prashant's question first. Prashant asks, product market fit. Did you have to make drastic changes, course correction in your product and target market? If so, how difficult was it, and how did you convince yourselves to do it? So it's kind of a three-part question there.
Yes, it was difficult. Yes, we had to make corrections, both very significant corrections, completely in the client market, partially in the lawyer and law firm market, and very significantly in the technology product. But it wasn't, when you're telling a story in retrospect, you're able to clearly demarcate how things shifted, but it doesn't always feel like that at the time. It wasn't a moment where we were like, we've been doing everything wrong for the past few years and we'll be completely reinventing the business. It was that we begun to see one segment of our market performing. And that at the time was, startups who had their first in-house counsel. And we began to notice that their use of the marketplace was the one segment where they were consistently spending more than it was costing us to acquire them. And so we began to get really curious about how we could better serve that market. And we deployed a significant percentage of my time toward interviewing other in-house teams, sort of half wearing a sales hat, half wearing an advice hat, and beginning to understand if there was an opportunity to move even further up market. And we came to the conclusion that there was, and that there was no one else really playing in that space. And that was very, very attractive to us. So we began to make incremental moves, both in terms of the clients we went after. And once we had changed the client base, you realize that you needed to change the lawyer mix. But it wasn't that none of the lawyers were a fit. It was that it was a slight adjacency. And so we really did that iteratively. And then with the product changes, the bones were similar, and we didn't need to throw out the baby with the bathwater, but we started to make changes that move the product to be more useful to that market. And I would say we only completed it pretty recently, which is not a bad thing. I think that one of the things that we didn't talk about, or that in terms of what was hard or what I regret or all those other kinds of questions that you've asked, really a depressing evening. I'm gonna need to get a drink after this. But
I advised to bring the drink on with her.
I privilege coherence over happiness.
Yes.
But in the beginning, we sort of had a thesis, and we went out with our thesis, and we did not do the MVP startup style launch. And that was really a mistake, because we were right about parts of it, but we were wrong about lots of it. And now we try to always do the smallest possible piece. And that was true in our pivot. So what change can we make that makes a difference, that takes us the least time? And that's really guided our philosophy, both in the pivot and in growing the business since, and it served us very well.
Excellent.
I will say, can I just jump in on that quickly?
Yeah, you bet.
I think it's really a hard thing to figure out in law, though, the MVP thing, right? Because at least for us, you have like tremendously demanding clients on one side, and you have a
love you clients.
We love you clients, but they want high quality legal services. That's why they're there, and a high quality technology product, and then tremendously talented lawyers who are trying to connect with those lawyers. And so figuring out what is the minimum thing that you need was something that I think was very, very hard for us at first. And, I don't think it did us any favors to have come from, at Yale Law School, they don't really train you to go for 80%.
Right.
So that was probably not so helpful, but I think, the thing that worked about the pivot was that discipline that Basha was talking about saying, okay, we know that there's a huge amount of work here to get to the place in the market we want to go. But let's make the smallest technology changes we can, and also not gut the existing business that we had. So, a really important thing there was we changed our onboarding flow for people who were requesting lawyers. And we changed it really carefully because it suddenly had a lot more sophisticated questions, right? Which would block out people who didn't really know the answers to those questions, right? We were asking like, what kind of lawyer do you want? What kind of area of law, which all was great for powering matchmaking. But if you don't really know what you want, it was gonna box you out. And so for a long time, we had another way in where you could just say, or tell us. And it was a little bit of a two-step because we weren't quite ready to go all the way, and we needed to make sure that other business kept going, and we weren't sure if that form was going to work. And I think that it taught us a lot about saying, even though within law it's really hard to go tiny, it's important to be incremental because you really don't know what's going to work, and you need to go as fast as possible and figure out what works as fast as possible, and not gut the things that are working.
Excellent. That's fantastic. And now I will come back to Meg's question here.
Hi,
Meg says,
up late with us.
Not, of course, to throw shade on any startup founders who have not been able to make it work, but what is the relevance or importance to the legal industry ecosystem of reinventing yourselves and succeeding versus shutting down? Who wants to take it?
I mean, I don't know.
Please.
I'll just start and say,
you guys can take this up with Meg later.
Most startups fail, and there is no shame in failing.
In any space, legal or no. I think there are elements of timing, there are elements of luck, and there's elements of life that just happen. And sometimes it's just not a good idea. But in any case, I think that's part of the deal. And I think we obviously said that to ourselves at some of the harder moments, and I think we need to remind ourselves of that now. And I think there are lots of ways to come back, even if your company fails, or at least I hope there are, because I think that the important thing is giving it your all. It sounds so trite, I'm sorry. But I'm trying to think about what the things we said to each other during some of our hard moments. And that is all about, I think it obviously is powerful, and we love being able to talk about ourselves as moms who push through. We have 4 kids. And what? Parents.
Sorry, Basha's correct. Your parents. 4 kids and pushing through a lot of sort of wanting to be everywhere all the time. But before Basha answers your actual question, I just want to say that we have tremendous respect for the people who didn't make it through.
I'm not sure I'm going to answer Meg's actual question. I'm gonna jump on what Mirra said because I agree so heartily. But no, I think that it is running a business isn't linear by any stretch of the imagination. There are a lot of businesses that raised a hell of a lot more money than we have that still failed for good reasons and bad reasons, for reasons that feel fair and unfair. And there are a lot of businesses that are running for which the goal is to be a smaller business. Even though our goal is to build a venture scale business, that's not everybody's. I do think that if this business succeeds, and by this business, I don't necessarily mean Priori, I mean someone doing this business model, it will transform the legal industry in a way that I think is going to achieve those original goals we have of making access to legal services at every level more efficient, making pricing of legal services more transparent, and really cutting down on a lot of administrative cost that it drives up prices overall throughout the industry. So I'm a believer, but I really think the marketplace business model will flatten the legal services landscape in a way that creates a rising tide for everybody.
Excellent. And we are about 50 minutes in now. I've kept Basha and Mirra longer than I told them I would keep them. So ladies, is there something, we have a couple more questions that we're not going to be able to fit in tonight, but I do want to say, is there anything that we haven't covered about Priori that you'd like to cover?
I think the most important thing to say is that we haven't gotten here alone. We've gotten here because we have an absolutely extraordinary, dedicated, loyal team of employees. I will say in the column of achievements, when we were both 9 months pregnant and hadn't raised money, nobody quit. And you know what? I couldn't have blamed them if they had. But they really believed in the company and the project and in us as leaders, and they stuck around and made so much of this happen. We have absolutely incredible investors, and both at the seed level and at the Series A level, who have lent us all sorts of support, both tactical and emotional. And we have a community of fellow entrepreneurs, both in legal tech and outside of legal tech, who have been sounding boards for all sorts of advice when things weren't going well. And if we're talking here about what makes a startup journey successful, and again, I will still put an asterisk on success, because who knows what the next few years are going to bring for us. But it's the community of people who do it with you. The founders are important, but that's only a small part of the story.
That's great. Mirra, anything you'd like to add to that?
I just want to say, I loved what you said, Basha, but one quick story to just drive home how important I think it is to be part of a community, which was a lesson that was a little hard for us to learn, mostly because we loved being part of communities, but we've had kids during this time, and it's been hard to decide to go, out and have drinks just randomly, much harder than it was beforehand. So when we were starting, there was a woman who was at a company that wasn't exactly a competitor, but was sort of adjacent. And she started a legal tech happy hour, and, bringing in legal tech people from, all over New York, and people who were passing through. And she was just great at connecting people, and she was brilliant, clearly. And it was like a little weird, could have been a little weird, because she was at a company that was not exactly competitive, but maybe. And, and we still built that relationship. And Fast forward 6 years. And she's a VC now. And she came into our round.
Oh, wow.
And has been just a tremendous partner for us, both, while we were doing the fundraise before she came in, and then as an investor, she's just been incredible for our growth during this period. And I think it's really, a good reminder to connect with people in your community, even if their companies feel like a little overlapping. People are always going to be on different sides of the table, and you never know how you're going to intersect. And it's just been tremendously exciting and wonderful for us to be part of this legal tech community.
That's great. Thank you for saying that. It is really important. That's why we are streaming directly into the legal tech community on Facebook. Make sure everybody to lean on your communities, especially while you're up and coming. Where can people find you online or connect?
Absolutely. Well, basically everywhere. But Priori is www.priorilegal.com. That's PRIORI legal. And both of our email addresses are first name last name @priorilegal.com. So please feel free to reach out anytime. We would love to connect with everybody and anybody. Time is more crunch these days than it used to be, but if you reach out, we'll get back to you and we'll find some time to connect.
Excellent. Thank you, ladies. Our guests tonight were Basha Rubin and Mirra Levitt of Priori Legal. Stay tuned. Next week, we will be back with episode 107 with a early stage startup, Preliminate. It's a drafting productivity tool. And ladies, don't disappear after we stop recording. I will tell you a little bit of the wrap up stuff. Thank you, everybody, for joining tonight, and we hope you had a good time.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for having us.